Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me today for compassion and the practice of compassion. And this will be a Dharma talk, and I'll briefly kind of move through a very typical guided meditation. We won't actually do meditating on that practice today, but there'll be an offering around a guided meditation of compassion. We'll talk through the practice. So, a little bit of an announcement before I get started on today's offering. So, I'm back on Facebook and Instagram Live. You may have noticed. I did a session last week, and I'm doing one today, and I'll do consecutive Thursdays for today and the next 2 weeks following, all on the topic of compassion. So why am I offering this 4-week online Dharma talk series? Because I'm leading up to an 8-week online meditation program called Kuan Yin, a retreat into compassion. Now, Kuan Yin, in the Buddhist tradition, Kuan Yin is known as the Bodhisattva of compassion. And I won't go too much into the iconography of Kuan Yin today. Perhaps I'll offer that in next week's talk. So a little bit about the retreat then before we get started. The retreat is an 8-week online meditation program. It runs from Wednesday, February 23rd to Sunday, April 10th. This is being offered in 2 sections. Section A meets Wednesdays and Sundays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. East Coast time. So for those of us here in Thailand, that's Thursdays and Mondays, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So just so you can factor in your clock accordingly. Section B is offered Thursdays and Mondays, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Great Britain time. So Section B is really being offered to cater to those people who are in Europe and perhaps people who prefer a later start here in Asia. So Section B is being offered Thursdays and Mondays from 3 to 5 p.m. in Thailand. So a little bit about the structure of that 8-week program. The retreat sessions throughout the 8 weeks will include a variety of guided meditations that I'll be offering. There will be an abundance of question and answer time and interactive discussions with myself and the other retreat participants. So it's a really great opportunity to come together to form an online community of meditators and practitioners from people all over the world. These retreats are always offered. The Kuan Yin retreat and all of the other programs that I offered are offered within a secular voice. These teachings are made available to people from any religion, any faith, or no religion. It's all good. Everyone's welcome. And these teachings can have a profound effect regardless of your belief or ideology or background or view. In addition to that, all of these programs are offered within a trauma sensitive framework. I've done a lot of study around trauma sensitive mindfulness and trauma healing, and I apply those studies, the wisdom that I've gleaned from those programs to these retreats that are being offered. Throughout the 8-week program, you'll be invited to register for one-to-one sessions, and that's included in the package. I'm available for one-to-one private meetings with all of the retreat participants from the very first day that the retreat opens to the very last day when the retreat closes. So, and that's included. And I really feel quite strongly about that having the opportunity to meet with the facilitator throughout the program allows the practitioners, allows the retreat participants to go a bit deeper. So I really I enjoy that aspect of the retreat. I really love to connect with the participants one-on-one and get to know what's happening for each participant and cater the program to meet the needs of the people who are attending. Participation in the retreat after you've registered is completely voluntary. All of the sessions are recorded and shared privately with only the retreat participants as a way of holding the space of that confidentiality. So you're free to miss as many of the sessions as you like. You can miss all of the sessions if you wish. You could do the complete retreat in your own time, at your own pace. You're welcome to do that. Or you could just miss a few, or you could attend all of the sessions live. It's really up to you. Okay, so that's all I'll say about the upcoming online retreat into compassion. For more information about the retreat, please do go visit the website, www.suchsweetthunder.org. And all of the registration information and all of the other details that I might have missed in this announcement will be there. So before we move into the topic of today on compassion, I'd like to offer just a little bit of a guided meditation as a way of settling into the present moment. And so if you would then just get into your most comfortable meditation posture, whatever that might mean for you, whether that's seated on a cushion on the floor in the traditional style, cross-legged, or seated in a chair. Or if you wish, you could lie down, that's fine, or standing up, also fine. And so I'll ring the bell and I'll guide us into this very brief guided meditation. We might do this for 5 to 7 minutes or so. Enjoy. And so the invitation here is just to arrive into this present moment. And there are many ways of arriving into the experience of the here and now. And for this practice, I think we can just notice how the body feels in this current posture. Whether you're lying down or seated or standing, simply bringing awareness to the felt experience of the posture. You might offer yourself a phrase like sitting, and I know that I'm sitting. As a way of bringing awareness to that felt experience of the seated posture. Or if you're lying down, doing the same with that posture. And while we're here noticing the present moment posture, the felt experience, the invitation then is to bring awareness to the feet, and noticing any sensations that might be arising from the feet. And really connecting there with the felt experience. Going beyond any concept, any word, feet. What's the actual felt experience of that area we think of as feet? There might be a tingling, a warmth, or a coolness, a pulsating. Perhaps simply noticing the pressure of the feet against the ground or the floor. Just connecting with whatever's there. And in the next breath or two, we can bring awareness to the legs. And the invitation here, again, is to connect with that felt experience of that area we think of as legs. What's actually there beyond the concept of legs, beyond any words? What's the actual felt experience? Perhaps simply noticing the felt experience of the clothing against the skin. Tightness in the muscle, perhaps. A warmth, a coolness, tension. Perhaps there's some pressure from the weight of the body against the mat or cushion if you're lying down, or the chair. Connecting with the felt experience of the present moment. And in the next breath or two, when it feels good to do so, the invitation then is to bring awareness to the hands, that area of the body we think of as hands. What's the felt experience there? Letting go of any concept of hands. There might be a tingling, a warmth, an energetic feeling of the hands, that area we think of as hands. Maybe some tension or softness. There might be a coldness or a coolness. There's no wrong sensation or right sensation. Perhaps you don't feel much at all, and that's also fine. Just notice that. We're just noticing what arises as the felt experience of this present moment, as we bring awareness through what we normally think of as body. Above or beyond any concept of body, any word body. And so in the next breath or two, we could include the hands and arms into this exploration. So just including the arms, as we've already explored that area we think of as hands. And so connecting directly here with that felt experience, the forearms, the elbows, the biceps and triceps. Letting go of any concepts of the arms, any thought of arms, words, arms, letting all of that go. And experiencing directly the felt experience of the present moment. And when it feels right to do so, we could include the shoulders into this exploration, just feeling into the felt experience of that area we think of as shoulders. There might be some tension there. It's quite common for the human body to carry tension in the shoulders. Or not, there may be some softness there at the shoulders. A warmth, a throbbing, perhaps just noticing the sensations of clothing against the shoulders. And in the next breath or two, we could include the neck and throat area into this exploration of the felt experience. And just noticing whatever's there. Warmth, tension, softness, tightness. We might also include the face into the exploration of the felt experience. And exploring the face can be quite interesting because we often have a concept in our mind of what we look like. And so here the invitation is to go beyond the concept of our face. To let go of that and to really connect with the felt experience. Maybe there's some tension in the cheeks of the face, a tightness around the eyes or the lips. Perhaps there's some tension in the forehead. There might be a tingling around the nose. Just connecting with whatever's there. And in the next breath or two, we can then bring into this exploration the very top of the head. Often there's no feeling or very little feeling at the crown of the head, and that's fine. Just notice whatever's there. And so the invitation here is just to rest. There's no effort required. Sensations can simply arise and be felt, be known. And if you should find at any point during the meditation you get distracted by thoughts, just know that that's normal. Smilingly recognize the distraction. Noting it with the word thinking. Letting the thoughts go and gently returning back to what does this present moment feel like? And while we're resting here in the felt experience of this present moment, the invitation then is just to notice the breath. If you wish, if it feels supportive for you, you could take a nice deep breath here. And simply noticing how the breath moves through the body, the rising and falling of the abdomen, the expanding and contracting of the rib cage. You might notice the rising and falling of the shoulders, the back moving out on the in-breath and in on the out-breath. Perhaps noticing how the body straightens up slightly as you breathe in and leans forward slightly as you breathe out. You might also notice how the temperature changes from cooler to warmer at the nose and the back of the throat with each breath. And so resting, connecting directly with the felt experience of the present moment. Noticing the breath and just rest. There's no effort required. And so in the next breath or two, we'll begin to shift away from this guided meditation and back into a conversational space. And I'll cue that by ringing the bell 3 times. Well, thank you all for joining me in that guided meditation. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And if you're watching this back on video and you wish to stay in that practice longer, feel free to press pause now. And you're welcome to stay and meditate as long as you wish. But for those of us who are here live, I'm going to go ahead and continue in today's talk of compassion. So last week when I started this series on compassion, I spoke in detail about the practices of self-compassion. And those are very, very important practices and very healing, almost necessary in today's current world climate. So today I'm going to offer a talk around compassion for others. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, people joining live. It's so nice to feel the presence of others here. So thank you for that. Compassion for others, primarily. And really, when we parse apart the experience of compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, that's really a teaching device. It just makes it easier and more accessible when we do that. But essentially, there's not much difference whether we're offering compassion for ourselves or compassion for others. We're really practicing cultivating compassion. And compassion, the way I'm defining compassion, is the ability to hold pain, whether it's our pain or someone else's pain, and the desire to be free from that pain, from that struggle, from that suffering. Compassion not only includes the resonation, where our heart trembles in the face of somebody else's struggle or our own. It includes that resonation, and it includes the wish to help. That innate drive to alleviate the struggle. And for this talk, we'll talk about the struggle of others. But just know that in parentheses there, it really includes our own struggle as well. So compassion allows for us to feel into our care for the other person. And this is the difference between compassion and empathy, right? Empathy, we feel very deeply, we resonate very deeply with the other person's struggle. Compassion frees us from focusing solely on that person's plight, because we have that desire to help. And this move forward to help, the move forward out of compassion to help, actually activates the reward centers in our brain. It feels good. So this good feeling that is a part of the compassion process resources us, stabilizes us, gives us the ground so that we can move forward to help without falling into despair. Empathy has this quality that we resonate with somebody, but we can very often get into despair because empathy lacks that movement forward to alleviate the struggle of another. So it's very important to distinguish those two, and to really, when our heart is trembling in the face of another person struggling, that we actively move forward, because that movement forward really does feel good, and it resources us. It gives us the strength to encounter that struggle without falling into our own sense of despair. And I think we all know this. We've all had some experience with this. It's quite normal, right? When we encounter struggle or suffering, we kind of fall into a reactive pattern, right? We might look for someone or something to blame, right? This isn't fair. Why is this happening? Right? That's very normal. We might get angry, right? Or claim that life shouldn't be so unfair. Or we might simply numb out. That's a very common reactive pattern when we're faced with another person's struggle, especially if it's somebody who we're connected with, a family member, a very close friend. Right? We tend to fall into these reactive patterns. The problem with those reactive patterns is that they lead to more isolation. They lead to more separateness. They lead us into a state of disconnection, and inevitably they lead to more suffering and more struggle. Our heart literally stops trembling. That empathetic resonance is disconnected, and the compassion disappears. And so this is why training, taking an 8-week program on compassion, for example, or doing meditations around compassion, other practices, we train in this way so that our hearts can remain open, that we can have that bravery of heart, so that we can indeed hold space for the suffering, for the struggle, for the pain of others. And when we do that, we give ourselves the capacity to respond wisely in those situations. We peel back the layer of reactivity and we move forward with wisdom. That movement forward with wisdom generally serves the present moment. So there's no pat answer, right? This is a situational ethic, right? We can't train in one way of being compassionate that will fit every situation, because struggle and pain arises for all of us differently. So these practices around compassion invite us to practice with our own reactivity and to connect with the present moment, so that we have those tools, we have that awareness that we can be in the present moment and hold that space and move wisely to address the struggle of that moment. So I mentioned at the onset of today's talk that I would be outlining a particular practice, and so I'll move into that in a moment. And so the practice that I'm going to be talking us through, we won't actually do a guided meditation with this practice today, but I'll just kind of walk us through it. This practice will be really in the foreground of the 8-week program that I'm offering. So if this practice is intriguing to you and you want to find out more about the program, please feel free to email me through the website or message me directly through Facebook Messenger. I'm happy to field any questions that might be coming up around that. And so, as a method of meditating on compassion, one would be invited into the present moment, very similarly to the way we did at the opening meditation of today's talk. Right? That I think it was about an 8-minute practice where we just connect into the present moment experience. And in doing that connection, we open ourselves to the present moment. We're feeling the felt experience of the present moment. We're open with the breath, with the body. And in that openness, we're then invited to visualize a moment in time where we felt a sense of struggle. Now, if you're new to this kind of meditation, you don't start with something really activating. On a scale of 1 to 10 on the struggle scale, we really should start with about a 2 or a 3. Something that we can feel the tension there. We want to be free from that experience, but not something so wrought with pain that it sends us into the overwhelm zone. Right? We really want to stay connected to the practice. So the invitation then is to start, something workable. And we're then invited to then just to feel what it feels like to want to be free from struggle. The desire to be free from suffering. That desire to be free from suffering is the seed of compassion. So we feel into that for ourselves. We might do that only for a minute or two. It's not a very long. It's just a preliminary part of the meditation. And then we recognize that all human beings feel that way. Arguably, all sentient beings feel that way. That at some time in our life, all beings feel that they want the present moment to be different than what it is. So this brings in that common humanity piece. I also want to acknowledge here, before I move forward, that yes, struggle, suffering, there are varying degrees of that. So just want to acknowledge that. But here we're just working with that very basic human desire to be free from suffering and struggle. And so when we hold that in awareness, then we would offer phrases of compassion to our own heart. So I'll just read through the phrases, and I'll read through them rather slowly, and perhaps then I'll circle back around and give a little bit of a commentary on each phrase. The first phrase then is, may I be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And if you wish, follow along with me. Offer the phrase to your own heart and feel what that feels like. May I be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May I be free from disturbance and harm. May I accept things just as they are. May I experience the world accepting me just as I am. May I serve whatever arises. And so it is this set of 5 phrases that we'll be meditating very, very deeply on throughout the 8-week course. Now, of course, there are other meditations that we'll be taking a dive into throughout the 8-week program. But this is really the primary meditation that we'll be using. And we'll open the course with this meditation that we offer the phrases to our own heart. And spending 4 weeks on self-compassion. So we offer the phrases to our own heart, and then there are many other practices around self-compassion that we'll be exploring. And then we offer the phrases to people we love and like, people we're fond of. Then we expand that circle of compassion and care to include people we don't know. And then we expand again that circle of compassion and care to people we don't like very much, people we have challenges with. And then we eventually, in the last week of the 8-week program, we offer compassion to the entire world. Now that might sound like a lot, but the reason why we start with ourself and expand outward is that we spend 4 weeks cultivating that compassion for ourselves. A type of momentum starts. We see how the phrases start to marinate our heart, our body, our mind in the experience of compassion. And as we develop that confidence in the practices, it becomes quite easy then to send it out to people we love, we care for, to people we don't know, to people we don't like, and then to the entire world, like that. And that's very, very traditional way of working with compassion meditation. That comes directly from the Tibetan tradition. That's at least where I know it from. The Tibetan tradition. It may come up in other traditions as well, I'm not sure. But I know for sure in Tibetan Buddhism, it's offered out in circles of care and compassion, widening that circle over and over again. And so while we were talking through those phrases, you know, if you were offering them to your own heart, or if you watch it back on replay and you want to offer the phrases to your own heart, you might notice, you know, that there's some resistance to one phrase or all of the phrases perhaps, and that's fine, that's normal. These practices are designed to bring our resistances to compassion to the surface. So this type of meditation doesn't always feel good. It can be, you know, it can be challenging to be confronted with our own resistances towards compassion. But the only way we'll ever put down those resistances is if we allow them to surface, so that we can experience them and really to embrace them. That's the idea, is that we offer our resistances themselves the space of compassion. Tremendous amount of healing in that practice, and a tremendous amount of empowerment. We reclaim those resistances that we perhaps didn't even know were there. And then we reclaim them, we work with them, we hold them. And in that process, we become more available to the experience of compassion. Our heart is then free to tremble in the face of struggle, without falling into reactivity. So some of you may have seen when I advertised today's talk, I drew from a quote from Albert Einstein, and as a way of bringing today's Facebook Live and Instagram Live offering to a close, I'll just read the complete quote. Because I think this really beautifully speaks to the practice of compassion. Some of you probably know this quote. If you've heard me teach or talk around compassion, you know I read this quote all the time. It's really, every time I read it, I get goosebumps. It's really special. A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited by time and space. Human beings limit themselves, their thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of their consciousness. This delusion becomes a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for just a few persons nearest to us. Our task then must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion and care, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Our task must be then to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of care and compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. So thank you very much for joining me in today's talk. I hope to see you all on the retreat program. If you're curious about that, please send me a message or check out the website, suchsweetthunder.org. It's going to be a great program. I'll be back here on Thursday, next Thursday, offering another talk, probably a guided meditation perhaps. Thank you for joining me. I see you there on Instagram. Thank you. Thank you on Facebook, everyone, for joining me live. It's always a pleasure to connect and feel the energy that's being offered through the screen. It's really lovely. And for those of us watching on video, thank you so much for tuning in. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have an audience, so I really appreciate all of you. And I'll be back next Thursday, as I mentioned. I'm also starting the Facebook Lives on Tuesday because I'm offering another retreat. And that retreat is on the topic of embracing change. So that retreat will be a 9-week retreat, really taking a deep dive into the practices of impermanence and change. So that one, the Facebook Lives will be on Tuesday, talking about that program and talking about those practices. And on Thursdays, I'm talking about compassion. Okay, that's all I got. I'll ring the bell to close it out and make it official. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you.